Alright, so now we're going to learn about connective tissue, muscle tissue, and nervous tissue in this part of chapter 5. Okay, so connective tissue is very abundant. But here, one difference between connective tissues and epithelial tissues is that cells are farther apart. They're not attached right next to each other. Instead, in between the cells, there is matrix. And let me get to this part. Know that the matrix, or the extracellular matrix, consists of protein fibers or fibers. So fibers, think collagen, elastic fibers, there's also reticular fibers. So there are fibers in between the cells, and there's also ground substance. And the ground substance is this thick fluid, basically. Think of it like gelatin-like. And so this ground substance might be more liquid. So for example, we're going to learn about blood. Blood is a connective tissue. Or this ground substance can be much more thicker, such as in bone. And so know that different connective tissues have different consistencies. They can be fluid, semi-fluid, the different types. Before we get to the different types, the different cells that might be found in connective tissue. Fibroblasts. Know that fibroblasts are the ones that make the fibers. They also make the ground substance. So these are the main cells of the connective tissue. Macrophages. These do phagocytosis, meaning that they eat bacteria. And then we also have mast cells. Mast cells, they make heparin. Heparin prevents blood clotting. And they also make histamine. Histamine is for inflammation. Okay, so 3 different types of cells, well, the more common ones. So now the fibers. There's collagen fibers. Know that the collagen fibers are the strongest. They're for strength. Elastic fibers, they're elastic, so meaning that they're able to stretch. And reticular fibers, these are the thinnest ones, and they form soft organs and spleen and liver. Alright, so different categories of connective tissue. There's the loose connective tissue and the dense connective tissue, and then there are also the specialized connective tissues. Okay, so we're going to go through these different types. Again, we just need to know the main function, location for these. For the areolar connective tissue, here mostly fibroblasts are in this tissue. I want you to know the location for this. Beneath, meaning right underneath, any type of epithelial tissue. And so think if it is for the stratified squamous for your skin, right below that is the areolar connective tissue. Or right below the simple columnar, there's areolar connective tissue for all of them. Adipose tissue, this is just fat. Know that this one cushions, insulates, know those for the functions, and location all over our body. Reticular connective tissue, this one has reticular fibers, and know that this is for the liver and spleen. Dense regular connective tissue, this has a lot of collagen fibers. Collagen fibers are arranged kind of like waves in waveform. And know that this tissue makes up tendons and ligaments. Dense irregular connective tissue, we did not look at this in lab, but this tissue is in our skin, in the middle part of our skin. So the upper part of our skin is the stratified squamous. Right here where there's the dark line, that's the areolar tissue. Sorry, I did that wrong. It's actually down here. And then right below that, all of this pink, lighter pink, is then the dense irregular. Elastic connective tissue. This has fibroblasts, but a lot of elastic fibers. Know for this the location, aorta and large arteries. Okay, so aorta comes out of our hearts, takes the blood that is being pumped out of our heart. It needs to be able to stretch to accommodate the force. If it's not able to stretch, it could actually rupture. So, which is actually what happens as we get older. Our aorta, our large arteries lose that elasticity, and so then it's much easier for them to rupture. But this is a very, very good characteristic for this tissue, allowing for stretch. Then the specialized connective tissues. We're going to look at cartilage, there's also bone, blood, and there are 3 different cartilage types. We're going to see that there's still a matrix, but here now the cells, not fibroblasts, but they're called chondrocytes. These are the cartilage cells. And the cells we're going to see are sitting inside what look like bubbles, chambers called lacunae. Okay, so these lacunae are just holding the cells inside. Okay, so now let's look at the different types. Hyaline cartilage. Know that this one lines the ends of our bones. It's also making up the cartilage of our nose and our respiratory passages, such as our trachea. And so you can see here, it looks like eyes because the inside part, the blue part is the cell, the chondrocyte, and the white part is the lacuna holding the cells. Next one for the elastic cartilage. So now it's named elastic cartilage because it has a lot of elastic fibers. Hyaline cartilage has a lot of collagen fibers. But here, know that this one is making up our outer part of our ear and also our larynx, which is our voice box. Fibrocartilage. This is the strongest type of cartilage. Very, very tough. It has very a big amount of collagen fibers. It acts as a shock absorber. And a good location for this, we'll know this as the intervertebral discs, but they're also found in our knee, our pelvic girdle. And so here the intervertebral discs are between our vertebrae, so here the orange ones. And they're holding the weight of our body. Bone is also a type of connective tissue, but it's a specialized type. And so now we have osteoblasts and osteocytes. So we're going to learn when we get to the bones. Osteoblasts are the ones that make bone. These are the young cells. These are working. And once they have finished making the bone, osteoblasts turn to osteocytes. So osteocytes are the mature ones. And then osteocytes are the ones that look to see if the bone is good, if it needs any fixing. They'll just monitor that. Okay, but the osteoblasts are the young cells that are actually building more bone. So for bone, be able to identify this tissue in the lab and know that these are the 2 cell types. Osteoblasts, the young ones, osteocytes, the mature ones. We'll learn about the osteons later. Blood, a fluid type of connective tissue. So again, because it's connective tissue, it has the cells, but also a matrix. But this time, its matrix is the plasma. Know that plasma is the fluid. And so really just know that blood is a type of connective tissue and the plasma is the matrix. For the different types of membranes, membranes are made up of epithelial tissue, connective tissue. The different types, serous membranes. These, if you remember, make up that visceral pericardium or the visceral pleura, parietal pleura, all those. And so know that the serous membranes are made up of simple squamous tissue, but also areolar tissue. Mucous membranes, they're found in our respiratory tract, but also in our digestive tract. Mucous membranes make mucus, and mucous membranes are made up of epithelium and areolar tissue. And of course, the goblet cells are in these to make mucus. Cutaneous membrane, just know that cutaneous means skin. We'll learn this in the skin chapter. And then the synovial membranes, know that these are found in our joints, and we'll learn these when we get to the joint chapter. Alright, so now the different types of muscles. Muscle cells are also called muscle fibers. Point that out. And muscle cells are able to shorten, meaning contract. And so 3 different types of muscle tissue. Skeletal muscle tissue is attached to our bones. It is striated, meaning that it's got these, looks like thin lines running through. You can kind of see it here too. And so each cell is a cylinder shaped. So know that it's striated, it's under voluntary control. We're able to control our muscles by just thinking about it. They do have actually a lot of nuclei. So one cell has more than one nucleus. So that's what multinucleated means. All right, but so again, the important stuff, it's striated, voluntary, and I'll also say long parallel cells. Smooth muscle tissue does not have striations because its proteins inside are arranged differently than in skeletal or cardiac muscle. So smooth muscle, not striated. Cardiac muscle is though. It's got these spindle-shaped muscle cells, fibers, and it's found in our hollow organs, blood vessels. So hollow organ meaning if there's like a liquid inside, but it's otherwise empty. So such as our stomach, our intestines, their walls are made up of smooth muscle tissue, and it's under involuntary control. And the cardiac muscle in our heart, so here the cells are branching. They're not perfectly parallel to each other. So one goes this way, one goes up this way. Okay, then know that it's involuntary, striated, and the intercalated discs are the connections between the cells. So they're really actually desmosomes made up of the intermediate filaments. And the last type of tissue, nervous tissue, found in our brain, spinal cord nerves. Know that the main cells in nervous tissue are called the neurons. So then when we get to the nervous system chapter, we're going to learn that neuroglia are the helper cells. But for now, let's just know the neurons as being the main cells. And also know that nervous tissue is a separate tissue type on its own.